Hello, good morning, and welcome to another day on the Daily Creative Challenge. I'm your host, Juan Jose Busquiza. How is everyone? We were listening to some cool music before we started the streaming. I want to know how is everyone? Where are you writing from? Where are you watching from? We are here in San Francisco. Hello, Sam. Hello, Chad. Noor. Yeah, YouTube can take you to different places. How is everyone going? Mueller, Carla, hello. Beatriz, good morning. Where are you all writing from? I see a lot of really familiar people writing. Michael, Lawrence. Lawrence again from Belgium. How is everyone? Ken. Yeah, really cool to see all these really cool places. I have to start traveling again. From Netherlands, nice. How is it going? So, who's for those of you who don't know what the Daily Creative Challenge is? Basically, it's a challenge where you subscribe and you can do every day. You can learn a different trick or a different technique. And you complete the challenge and then you post it and you can start engaging with people, you can start meeting people, you can start asking for feedback and advice. This is the main website. So if you go into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, you're gonna go to the main website. Here you can press here, take the challenge, and also you can press here and subscribe, which basically is going to let you know when a new challenge is coming up, and for you to, if you want to learn whatever is happening in that challenge, you can just subscribe and you get notifications. Something really cool you can do as well, and I see a lot of people here are actually there. It's joining the community chat. So if you press here on the top, and if you press here on the bottom, join us. It's going to take you to the Discord, which is a platform where you can engage, interact, ask questions. So for example, here on the left panel, if you go to current challenge, you can see what's happening right now, and you can see how people post whatever the challenge was for that day. So we can see here like 3D, we can see lights, we can see scene days. You can see how people start giving feedbacks. Something else is you can also click on past challenges and you can see what people were doing before. Not only this challenge, but past challenges. And you can also ask questions, tips and tricks, career advice. So I really recommend, because it's where a lot of people are learning from just being on Discord. So let's go and start the challenge for today. So for today, I'm just gonna grab a night scene and I'm gonna start applying different effects. It's gonna look better. So I'm gonna start with a template, which is basically, I'm having a 3D model here, and I have a landscape I already selected, and the sky on the back. So there is different ways you can start adding elements into your scene. One of them is just, if for example, I'm gonna take this planet here, and you can just basically either select it with a quick selection tool, or these are just to get that exactly object that you want from the image. However, there's different ways you can do this. So I'm just gonna take this image and put it on my template first, and I'm gonna place it above the sky. The sky that it's also a template image from Adobe Stock, which is this one. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place it here, and then I'm gonna go here to the bending options, and you can see as if I keep scrolling, you're gonna see how they change. So if I go to screen, you're gonna see how it sort of merges with the background. So this is pretty cool if you just want to start adding elements without, for example, you can have a scene with different planets there. You can just start playing with bending options to make it fit without having that extra effort of just, you know, taking that single element. And also it gives this really cool appearance. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. Just pressing Command T, or you can just go to image. What's this? Yeah. Anyways, let's just start moving with this. So if you press Command T, you can just start adjusting the size. I'm gonna press play, and if you click here on the top, the check, you're just gonna place it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate that layer 3 times to give it, let's just do it 2 times. Yeah, I like it this way. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select both layers. I'm going to take them and just making a group with them. So I'm just gonna play on the bottom to create a group. And I wanna create a layer mask, which is this bottom here. And I'm gonna grab the brush tool. You can adjust the size of your brush here. I'm gonna select soft round. And what I'm gonna do is start painting on top of these little things that, for example, that doesn't match, right? So I'm just gonna start painting and make sure it's on right. Let's change the opacity to 52%. And you can just start painting on top, sort of making everything even. You can just start bending and erasing those parts that you think they are probably a little bit too much for your project. Let's put it here. Okay, cool. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start playing with the colors of the sky. So I'm just gonna grab a color balance and then start changing the colors of the sky. I like a little bit blue. I'm gonna apply a little bit of yellow here. I like blue greenish kind of style. That's my style. I recommend you to experiment with this. The best way for you to experiment is just go all the way with one, go all the way to the other one, and just start, you know, finding what's that spot that you actually like. Now when I go to just my layer, let's see, I like this part. I'm just gonna grab my layer here. I'm gonna add some brightness and contrast first. If you select again the square with the arrow here, you can just clip that adjustment to your layer. So now if I start adjusting this, you only affect what is underneath. And I'm gonna apply a new color balance as well. Make everything a little bit, yeah. Just play with this a little bit. By the way, I really love to just spend time with this because it's super cool, and I feel like there's no finished product. It's just about when you think it's looking good. I feel it's when it's done. So I suggest you start playing with this a little bit. Let's say I like it like this. Now I'm gonna place my 3D model here. Just gonna zoom in. If you press Command and the plus or the minus, you can zoom out or zoom in. So I'm just gonna grab my 3D model, which is we cover 3D models in I think 2 challenges before 2 days ago. So I mean, this is just quickly reminding. If you go through the 3D model here, you go to 3D, you go to scene, and you can start placing your grid to put it on perspective. So let's see. Okay, I like this perspective here. Just gonna grab my tool. If you press here on the top, you can adjust the size. So let's make it smaller. Cool. And then here, I'm just gonna move it far away from here. I wanna have the effect of this cube is just basically just landed on the snow. So I'm gonna play with this a little bit. I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit again. I'm actually gonna make it a little bit bigger like this. Okay, cool. And then you can just, you know, you can play around with the cube with these tools here, or you can just interact with the cube itself here. So make sure you're selecting your 3D model here. So here I'm just gonna start rotating this, and I'm gonna place it like it's on the snow. So you just have to find the right spot. Let's say I like it here. And if you press Command H, you can hide the guideline, so you can basically see how it's looking like without the grids. So this is pretty cool. You can just you can start making them appear or disappear. So let's say I like it here. I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit more. Okay, cool. Put it a little bit on the back. And this again, this is just tweaking around. I'm gonna press Command H, and now I'm gonna start applying. I go back to layers, and I'm gonna start making this cube a little bit darker. So I'm gonna go to first brightness and contrast, apply only to the cube, make it dark. I'm gonna apply levels. Again, I'm gonna clip it to my layer and make it all dark. And as you can see on the top, the light, it's hitting the top. So I'm just gonna change that. So if I go back to my cube, go to the 3D, I'm gonna make the guidelines appear. I'm gonna press click here on the infinite light, and I get this handle. So I'm gonna start changing where that light source is coming from. So let's put it from here, because I actually think that the light is coming from here. So, okay, cool. Cool. And now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna start applying things to here. And what I'm gonna do is, if the idea is to just, this cube just landed on the snow, I'm gonna make it, I want it to feel like it's sort of a hidden, it's sort of like covered with a little bit of snow. So for me to do this, I'm gonna apply a layer here, a mask, sorry. If you press here, mask, I'm gonna grab my brush, and then I'm gonna start painting on top of here. You have to select the opacity, so it's not gonna be so hard. So I'm just gonna start painting a little bit on top. And you can see how it's giving the appearance that is actually underneath. So what I'm doing here is basically painting this a little bit, so you can, if you press X, you have to make sure if it's on black, you are basically erasing, and if it's on black, you are painting. So let's just make sure you are like this. Let's say I like it how it's looking like. Right now, what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna start adding some components to that cube. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is, let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna grab a new layer, and I'm gonna call this shining cube. I'm gonna grab my brush, and you can either access the menu by pressing here, or if you press right click, you can access the properties here. I'm gonna go to hardness, 100%, hard round. The size, let's put it on 10. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create this sort of a neon light effect on top of the cube. So now that I have my brush, I'm gonna put the opacity onto 70%. Cool. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a rectangle tool. You can use different options here. So I'm just gonna grab the rectangle because I wanna cover the front of the cube. And then I'm just gonna make a cube. Doesn't matter right now the size, I'm gonna adjust this later. And then once I have this, make sure it's on path here. You just press right click, stroke path, and you select the brush which we previously selected. I'm gonna press OK. And now I'm just gonna press delete. So I'm gonna erase the rectangle and I'm just gonna keep the path. Yes, cool. And now I have this sort of a square looking like. And what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna grab the marquee tool and I'm gonna select just the bottom like this. And I'm gonna delete. So I just wanna have this basically arc that you can just place on your cube. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna I made my my cube really dark. I'm gonna make those invisible right now, so I can just place my arc. So if I go here, I can just press Command T. You can press distort, and you can start placing the cube. So it's gonna match the size of your cube here. Here. Cool. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate that layer, and then here it's where you can start applying really cool techniques. I'm gonna make this visible again. In the copy, I'm just gonna go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur, which is gonna basically this change is gonna add, yeah, let's add 20%, 20 pixels. And basically what this is doing is, so I'm applying a blur on that layer, and it's giving this sort of reflection or light reflection on top of your image here, and it looks pretty cool. And the next thing what I'm gonna do is, if you go to your first layer, double click, and you're gonna get the options. You can change the layer styles, and you have different options here you can choose from. Let's go to Outer Glow, and here's where you can actually start selecting whatever you want. You can do let's choose the overlay. Let's use opacity. We can change the spread here, the size. Just keep it the way it is, like 90% here, noise 6%. And then let's just try here a little bit of, you can try, I can experiment with this. I think this one works pretty well. Just gonna do, okay. And now that I have this, I'm gonna duplicate this layer again. So what I'm doing right now is just basically applying different layers on top of everything that I'm making. So I'm creating a different effect on each other. So all of them together create this really cool effect. And now I'm gonna apply a new blur, Gaussian blur again, and let's do 20% again. And now you can see how it's giving this sort of a cool looking, shiny reflection sort of effect. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna group them together. So I'm gonna select them all, press on folder again, and you can start applying, let's say, brightness and contrast. And I'm gonna clip this to my group, and you can just start playing with the contrast, make them look the way you actually want them to look. Like this. You can even start playing with the hue and saturation, the color balance. You make it a little bit. You can just start changing and do actually the color I really like. Cool. Now that this is here right now, I can just keep playing with this. So basically, I'm having a light here. What if I want to add reflections from that light into the sun, into the snow? When I create a new layer, I'm going to click my brush. Where is the brush? Here. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. I'm gonna zoom in, change the opacity. I'm gonna change from hard round to soft round. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press to 40%. The color, I wanted the color to be kind of like blue, green. So, and I'm just gonna put it a little bit lighter. Cool. And then what you can do is you can start painting. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna paint first the edges. And I'm just gonna imagine how it could look like. So I'm just gonna, let's say it's gonna reflect like this. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint. Oops, sorry. And make sure the hardness is 100%. Really forgot about that. And now I'm just gonna start painting this kind of lines here. Paint on top to make it brighter. And then I'm gonna go to 20% and paint on top of the whole thing a little bit. Oh yeah, soft lights, soft round. Okay. Separate it a little bit. And sometimes you can just feel like, okay, I'm not where I really wanna go. So you can just create a new mask here. Click the brush again and start sort of cleaning that scene a little bit. Make sure it's black here. You can just start painting on top to make those parts softer. Brush tool. And what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna click that layer and I can filter, blur, Gaussian blur, say 20%. And this is gonna also create this sort of a effect. So it's gonna apply a little bit here. Gonna make it brighter. And then I can just start erasing some of the parts that I feel like they just don't match too well. Just do a little bit less. Okay, cool. Cool. And then on top of all of this, I mean, you can just start playing with this. I'm gonna make it the opacity a little less. Paint on top. So just adding a little bit of reflection here. Trying to make this even look cooler. I suggest everyone just, keep playing with this and find the right spot that you actually like. So on top of this, I can just start applying brightness and contrast on top of everything. And now that I already have this, I'm just going to merge all of them together. If you press Shift, Command, Alt, and E, you're gonna create a layer you're gonna merge all of them together into a new layer. I'm gonna duplicate it, and I'm gonna add a new gradient map. I'm gonna select screen, and then I'm gonna change it to actually this one here. I like. Soft light. Cool. Okay, I'm just gonna select this one here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna merge these two together by Command E, pressing Command E. And then here, you can see the effect here. I actually like this. And I'm gonna create a layer, mask here, grab the brush. And I'm gonna start, let's say there are some areas of the image that I want to make them brighter. So I'm just gonna grab and start painting my brush to 33%. Start painting like this. And you can just start, well, this is changing all the time here. Okay, cool. You can just start painting on top like this. For example, here, I'm gonna make this part a little bit brighter. So just, you know, making sure that everything is a little bit the way it is. Yeah, oops. So I think we ran out of time. This took longer than I was practicing. So I mean, this is a different kind of a little techniques you can apply. You can start playing with the neon and effects. Start playing around. I'm gonna be there to just answer a couple of questions. I have an error here, which is I wasn't using the hard. I wasn't using the soft round, but I was using the hard round. That's the things that happen when you're editing live. So that's all that we have for today. Join in tomorrow, and we're gonna keep working on this. Thank you.